So, if you like foreign prison stories, I'll tell you what, I've read quite a few books and interviewed quite a few people who've been in foreign prisons, but Venezuela is a whole new level. Natalie here gets to the prison, and there's a bunch of guys on the roof with guns. Now, I'm quite sure you're thinking they would be guards. They were the prisoners. And that's just going in. Just wait till you hear what happens when she gets in. I'm almost finished reading Sentenced to Hell, Natalie Welsh. Available worldwide on Amazon, and links to the book and all of Natalie's stuff are in the description box below this video if you want to check that out. But before we go there, thanks for flying in from Spain to do this.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me, Shaun.
And how the hell did you end up in a Venezuelan prison?
Oh, gosh. I always dreamt, as a kid, I dreamt of having an easy international job where I would be flying all over the world, but I didn't think, because I was young, exactly what that kind of job would be.
Yeah.
And at the time that I ended up flying to Venezuela, I'd been probably doing things for a few years beforehand, different routes, different places, and thought that I was invincible. I was very young. I'd grown up in a children's home. I didn't understand consequences of actions. I had a crippling drug addiction.
What was it like growing up in a children's home?
Fun.
Fun.
It was fun. I got up to some absolute... there was no consequences to actions. So, I got expelled from school, and then the next day I think I got took Tempin Bowling or to Alton Towers. I lived in a place with, 50 other children, and life at home was quite difficult. So all of a sudden I had this freedom where you could kind of do what you want because you couldn't get grounded. And if they said you were going to if you had to be picked up at 9:30 and you weren't there, and you phoned them up at 3:00 in the morning, they had to. So for it wasn't.
So you were running rings around them?
Yeah, basically.
Is that how you got introduced to drugs?
I think it was just the mentality that I had, and I was intrigued by that lifestyle. And then as I started to get a bit older, where I was not dealing or understanding, the children's home hadn't really guided me through the things that they were supposed to guide me through. My daughter's dad's actually was my social worker. So that experience...
My daughter's dad was my social worker. Let me just come to grips with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I hadn't processed those feelings and those emotions properly. So as I started to kind of hit my kind of like 15, 16, those kind of teens with all this kind of crazy emotions going on that I didn't understand, then I turned to drugs because you're looking for, escapism.
How old were you when you got pregnant?
16.
Okay. So did you then get onto weed first?
It was hash first.
Hash.
Yeah, hash at 13, 14, I think.
Yeah.
Then it was amphetamines.
Yeah.
I find this guy, I was walking up town and I found this guy, and I asked him to get me some bass, and he got me a gram of bass, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I asked him how to take it, and he said, you just put it in a Rizzler and you bomb it, you swallow it. I didn't know you didn't put it all in a Rizzler. He didn't say, so I just put the whole gram in a Rizzler and got on the bus and then went back to the children's home.
So people who don't know what bass is watching this, can you explain?
It's amphetamine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amphetamine. It's a kind of gateway to the next kind of steps on from that. And the people as well that are kind of associated around that are misfits, people that I felt connected to, after feeling so disconnected from the world my whole life, in school and at home. And I finally found this kind of world where I felt like I fitted in, because we were all very kind of similar in that kind of world.
That's why I felt in the rave scene in Arizona. We were all just misfits,
fitting together. Yeah.
So the drug use escalated.
Yeah, escalated. Then it was the rave scene when that hit hard in the kind of mid-90s, like late 90s. You had like Brunel's in Swindon that was smashing like the garage, and then you had Gold Diggers in Chippenham that was doing like hardcore, and you had the Dreamscapes and the Obsessions and the Odysseys and the Helter Skelters.
So what year was this?
97, 98.
When it was all just starting.
And the ecstasy scene then, and the feelings of euphoria and love that came along with that, and it just exploded, I think all over the country, not just where I was, and it was just a massive feeling of unity and love, and so I just fell into that world. And then I had a boyfriend who I was madly in love with, but who wasn't in love with me. And we separated, and in the area that I was living, there was a big crack problem. People from Jamaica had come over, gangs from Jamaica had come over to where I was living, to the town that I was living, and they were bringing people over and just flooded the place with crack. And when I split up with my boyfriend, my social life went with that. So I became quite an easy target, young, vulnerable, alone, already involved with drugs. I was just a very easy target. And then without even realising, I've got a crack addiction at 16 years old.
And you've got a kid as well,
Yeah.
and you've got all that pressure on you, and you're just a kid yourself.
I'm just a kid myself that doesn't know what I'm doing. No, not really any family support, not really many good friends at that point, or it's just, it was a difficult time. So I fell in quite deeply into this world. Everyone was so friendly, giving me free drugs and inviting me around all the time, reeling me in, because like I said, I was vulnerable then, and they were predators. And then they started to offer me opportunities to make money, and I was getting to the point where I'd had enough. I'd had enough, but I had no control. I couldn't stop myself. I was hating myself, but I couldn't stop myself. So I looked at it as an opportunity to get away as well, because if I wasn't in my town and I was in another country, then I didn't do it.
So by opportunities, let's just clarify, smuggling missions.
Yes.
And what was your first smuggling mission?
It was from Hook to Harwich. I can't remember how many keys it was. The people that I were working for, they had a quite a big operation, and they'd have planes landing in from wherever to Amsterdam, and then those people would get picked up and taken to like a flat in Rotterdam, and then my job was to get to Rotterdam, and then I'd get taped up. It would take about 4 or 5 people to do it. I'd have to stand there with the bricks, like maybe about that size.
Are these kilos of coke?
Yes, like a brick there, brick there, brick there, brick there, and then bricks there. And then people would have to hold them on while someone would like walk round me and with the gaffer tape, with the super strong gaffer taping it to me. And then I'd come back on the boat through the Hook to Harwich route.
First time you did the mission, what was going through your head? Were you scared?
Not at all.
Were you high?
No, not at all. I'd had a great time because I'd got away from drugs, even though I had, all these kilos of, drugs on me. I hadn't taken any drugs, so I had clear, when I went back with the headset of like, brilliant, I've been here for a week now, I've got off it. And then as soon as I got back and got paid,
Blitz time.
with all the, just one.
And how much did they pay you to transport those kilos?
$4,000.
4,000.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that mission was successful. So did that give you confidence?
Yeah, I did a few of them because I was confident.
Yeah.
That's probably how I got away with it, because I just, walked through, not even... There was no other option in my mind, you know. It was just, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to go through and I'm going to go past, and it will be fine, because what else can happen, Everything's always going to be fine, So, and that built up my confidence. Then I started meeting other people, and they were going to other countries, more exotic countries. And by then I was getting a little bit bored of Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and I'd find people in Amsterdam where I could get drugs.
Yeah.
So now in Amsterdam, I'm not getting away from the drugs, and I'm taking drugs. So I was like, right, I need to get out of Amsterdam. So started asking for other opportunities.
So who were the people you connected with to do the foreign opportunities that were outside of Amsterdam?
So it was a Moroccan crew. There was two crews. It was a Moroccan crew in Amsterdam, and it was this Jamaican guy in England. And initially, I met him because I was supposed to be setting up a robbery. We were gonna rob him. So I got introduced to him.
When you say we were going to rob him, you and who?
The people that asked me to meet him, the people that the local Jamaican drug dealers.
So they're like yardie gangster types.
Yes, exactly what they were, exactly yardies, and they said to me, that they knew this guy and that he was looking for someone to do some smuggling. And would I go to London and meet him, and would I get some information and then sort everything out? And then when everything came through, they'd come down, I'd give them all the information, and they'd rob everything. But when I went down for the meeting with the guy, I thought that his business proposition was a better business proposition than robbing him.
What did he propose?
That was it, when he was saying about, going to Holland. He treated me nice, he took me out, he paid me all my... And then when I went to Holland, the people that I got picked up there by these Moroccan people, and they took me shopping and took me to restaurants, and they were very friendly and very nice. And I just thought, I'm much better off working and doing this for them.
So his crew really took good care of you.
Yeah, they did.
And what was proposed next?
After that, I went to Jamaica, but that wasn't for them. That was with the yardies that I was doing stuff with in the UK.
So what happened in Jamaica?
I didn't bring anything back. So I had a great free holiday. It was brilliant, because there were rival kind of yardie gangs in the town, and the one kind of boss of the one gang had got wind that I was over there, and so the yardies that I was working for heard that he'd got wind, and they were like, he's gonna grass her up. He's gonna grass her up. So I just had a nice free holiday in Jamaica. When I came back, I got ragged up in the airport, taken to hospital, x-rayed my bags. They were absolutely convinced that I had something, and I didn't.
So he had snitched.
Yes. Yeah. So then that gave me even more confidence because I've come through and I'm like, ha 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 ha, you didn't get me.
So what was your next mission?
I didn't like working for them because I got left alone in Jamaica. And I wasn't used to that. I was used to being, picked up and treated nicely, and, I just got left to my own devices in Jamaica. So I decided that I didn't want to do stuff with them, and that I wanted to do some more stuff with this Dutch crew and this, London yardie guy. So I went to him and said that I wanted, I'd been to Jamaica and I was getting, I'd done Holland and I'd been doing it a little bit. So I was starting to think they're going to start recognising me on this hook to Harwich, route, and I'm quite young, so let's change and do something different. I want to be like them, the ones that we're picking up. So that's when he offered me the Venezuela job.
So what was supposed to happen in Venezuela if it went smoothly?
Well, do you know what's mental, Shaun? First of all, my boss came with me from London. My boss came with me to Amsterdam. And we went out the night before the plane and got smashed and missed the first plane to Venezuela.
So that was an omen.
Then he booked the next flight, and I was at the airport, and he came with me. And when I was at the airport, I said to him, I've got a really, I've got a funny, I feel funny. And he told me not to go. He said, don't do it. I said, what? He said, if you've got a funny feeling and you've always been signed, don't worry about it. And I said, but you've paid for the flights and the hotel. And he's like, don't worry about that. And me being, young, dumb and full of fun, just gave it all the Billy Big Balls and was like, nah, ignored all those signs, all those gut feelings, the universe screaming at me not to do it and not understanding that, just ignored it all and went and got on the plane to Venezuela. And what was supposed to happen was there was supposed to be someone where I thought it was going to be similar to Holland, that there'd be people waiting there for me and looking after me. There was no one there. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing. Had to phone my guy in he was back in London by then. He was confused. Eventually, after waiting for hours, someone turned up, picked me up, dropped me off at the airport. And then I didn't see them again until the day that I was going back on the plane with this, when they turned up with the night before, they turned up with the suitcase.
So you're laying low then, ready to come back with the suitcase.
Yeah.
Guide us through that day.
It felt wrong. From the moment, it felt wrong the whole time that I was there. The fact that I'd been left alone, I hadn't been taken anywhere, they hadn't paid me any attention, they'd kept their distance. It didn't feel right. But again, I just didn't understand these feelings and these signs. And then when they came and brought me my suitcase, they came to the hotel that I was staying in Margarita, and they brought me my suitcase, and all I could smell was glue. And I thought this, even, I ignored every single warning sign that was out there. I could smell the glue because it had a false bottom, and they'd put the drugs in the false bottom and in the false top and then sealed it all with glue. And I kept the suitcase open all night long, wafting it and spraying deodorant and trying to get rid of the smell of the glue. And I said to the guys, about the smell, and they were like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it. It's all sorted. They're in on it at the airport.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. that old chestnut. They're in on it. They know they've been paid off. There's nothing to worry about. They're going to pull you to one side, but when they pull you to one side, it's just to, get you out of the way to get your stuff through. So don't panic and don't worry. And even though still it didn't feel right, I don't know why, I still just, ignored these signs, because I wasn't frightened, but I don't know, my brain just hadn't thought of that there was ways out of it when there obviously was. You can just say no at any point.
And you've got your baby daughter with you at this point as well.
I have, yeah.
So she's heading to the airport with you.
Yeah.
And how old was she at that?
3.
3.
Yeah.
Wow. So what happens when you get to the airport?
So I'm in the departure lounge waiting to board the plane, and I see a group of National Guardia come in, and next to me there's a family, mother, child and, husband. And I saw the National Guards go up to them and ask them for their passports. And I knew that it was me that they were looking for. I knew, but I thought, it's okay, this is all part of the plan. I was told this was happening, you know, don't panic.
Yeah.
But I was shitting myself, you know, because but trying to hold it together. So they approached me at my table, took me into an office, and my suitcase was there on a table. And that's when I thought, fuck, I'm sure, you know. And then I thought maybe they're just, you know, hope. I'm a big, you know, hoper and prayer, you know, please.
Straw clutcher.
Yeah. And then the guard pulled out a knife, and that's when I knew I was fucked.
Pulled out a what?
A knife.
A knife.
Pulled out a knife, and I was like, this is not supposed to be happening, and just put the knife in the suitcase and pulled it across and pulled the knife out, and that's when I knew. I was like, this is definitely not part of the plan, and this is, you know.
And you don't speak the language.
Not a word.
So what are they saying to you when they discover the coke?
Not a clue.
Are they screaming at you or
Coca.
anything?
Coca. Coca, perico. But I didn't know what perico was, but coca.
Yeah.
I knew what that word meant. I figured that one out.
How's your daughter reacting at this point?
She's fine because she doesn't understand, you know. I'm reassuring her, you know, letting her know that, you know, everything's okay, it's all right, they're just checking, you know, our bags, and, you know, she hasn't got a clue what's going on, and I'm not showing the panic that I'm feeling, because in my mind I'm thinking that hopefully they'll hurry up and deal with it because the plane's leaving in an hour, and that somehow or another I'll still get on the plane.
So you're in shock?
Absolutely. Complete shock. Yeah, my mind just couldn't process what was going on. Couldn't comprehend it at all.
So did they have to then officially arrest you?
I think so. I imagine that's what happened. They called one of the airline attendants. I think she was Dutch, to translate. And she told me that I was in trouble, and that I wouldn't be getting my plane, and that I'd be going to jail for 10 years, and that she would she would phone my embassy for me and organise a phone call to my embassy so that they could explain to me, you know, what was going to happen, and she'd kind of talk me through the process a little bit, but I wasn't really hearing it, you know. I was just like, this is just a bad dream.
How did she just say 10 years like that?
They're so used to it. My embassy did exactly the same thing. When I spoke to them on the phone, they were very matter of fact. There was no hope there. They were like, right, this is what's going to happen. We can't help you. Don't even start about human rights, because there's nothing we can do about that. You're going to go to the police station, and then you're going to go to court after a while. You'll get sentenced to 10 years, and you're going to do 10 years in jail, and we can't get you back to England because, you know, no trying to comfort me, or very, very matter of fact of this is what's going to happen. We'll send someone to come and see you tomorrow.
So getting into this mission, had you any idea if you got caught you would do 10 years?
Not a clue.
So when you're hearing this 10 years and you're hearing it again from the embassy, how's that making you feel?
I didn't believe it.
You're not believing it?
No.
It's too intense.
I think that's how my mind managed to deal with it, you know. Up until the last minute, I was still expecting, it was like a bad dream, you know. I'll wake up in a minute and I'll be on the plane.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're in denial?
Absolutely, 100%, not comprehending any of it.
So did they separate you from your daughter at some point?
Not straight away, not that night. That night they kept me in the police, not the police station, it was like a Guardia, National Guards kind of office, which was next to the airport. With my daughter, they handcuffed me to a radiator, which is quite bizarre because it's really hot in Venezuela, so I don't know why they've got radiators, you know, so I find that quite odd. And they let my daughter stay with me, and I was still trying to let her know that everything was, okay, and that it was all right, and, everything would be okay. And she was fine, because I wasn't getting distressed. And then the next day, somebody came and said that I was going to be taken to the police station, and that they were going to take my daughter and put her in a children's home until something was sorted out. She couldn't come with me to the police station, but until something was sorted out for travel arrangements for her to get back to the UK.
Getting split from your daughter, then the realisation that must have tore you apart.
That was when it really hit. Like when she went, and then I was being, that's when the reality of the situation really started to kind of hit home, and me realise this was actually serious, and this was really happening.
Did you have to go in front of a judge?
Not straight away. I don't think. I can't remember. I don't think I did straight away. No, I got took to the police. I'm pretty sure I got took to the... God, it's so long ago now. I can't remember if I might have been taken to court and remanded to the police station, or whether I just got taken from there. I think I got taken from there to the police station, and at some point I think I went to court and they sent me back to the police station, and I was there for a few months.
What's the conditions like at the police station?
Oh my gosh, horrendous.
How many people in the cell?
Oh, about 20 in a room. I know the cameras can't see the whole size of this room, but it's probably, from what you can see from here to here, it's the same on the other side of the camera. It's probably about a cell this size with about 20 Venezuelan hardcore criminals in there, all speaking Spanish.
And you show up.
Yeah. Oh God, they loved it. Something different. There was no toilet. There's no beds. There's no furniture. There's just mattresses on the floor. There's a bucket with a bag in to have a number 2 in the corner when you need to have a shit in the room with 20 people. And there's a little sinkhole. So if you've done you take the bag out of the bucket and then you do a pee, and then you can pour the pee down the hole. There's no light. It's dark. It's disgusting.
Did they feed you?
They were supposed to. They don't provide food. The police station doesn't provide food, and the Spanish women that are in there, because it's a local jail, their families bring them food. My consulate came to see me and gave the police money to be able to buy me food, but they just kept the money. They didn't buy me the food. They just kept the money.
So did you live off the scraps of others?
Yeah.
And what were they eating?
Oh, mate, they were eating banging food. They were eating chicken and rice and peas and empanadas, and because it was stuff their families that were cooking and bringing into them. They were having banging food. Yeah.
So, because I've been in prisons with a lot of Mexicans and stuff, and a lot of them didn't speak English. Yeah. Usually you'll find one person to translate for you.
Yes.
Did you do that? There
was one person, La China, she was called. She couldn't really, she could say fucky. She explained to me that when I got to the prison, she had very broken English, very few words, but she managed to explain to me that the prison was much better, and there was lots of men, and you'll fucky. So I was thinking, I can't be understand. I don't think she knows her English words properly, and I can't be understanding this right. But it was right.
So there's a lot of uncertainty, anxiety until you get sentenced, because you're not quite sure what's going to happen to you. When you got sentenced, how was the day of your sentencing?
I didn't have a clue what had happened, really. I was in prison by then. By the time I'd got sentenced, I'd been moved to the prison.
What was the prison called?
That one was San Antonio.
Is that the one where the guys were on the roof?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's take us in there. Your first day in there. How's
Oh gosh. So when I'd been in Holland, in Amsterdam, I'd bought some poppers, and I hadn't seen my suitcase since I got taken to the prison, and the police handed me over to the National Guards with my suitcase, with all my stuff in it, minus the coke. And so they were going through my stuff at like a reception desk, as they were checking me in. At this point, I don't think I knew that the people on the roof weren't guards. I was just like, I was a bit surprised by their attire, but it's all a bit much to comprehend. And then the guards are going through my suitcase and they're going through my clothes. This is 2 National Guards. I can't speak English again. They can't speak Spanish. There's no translator. And they find this little bottle of poppers. And they're like, eso, ¿qué eso? And so I'm figuring out that they're asking what it is. So I told them, you take the lid off it and you sniff, sniff it. So the first one took the lid off and sniffed it, but only a little bit. So I took it off him and I was like, no, like this, So did a big sniff of this poppers. And so he took it off me and did a big sniff of his poppers. And he was like, "Rrr," and then passed it to his mate, to his National Guard mate, who did the same thing. Who was like, "Rrr," and they put the lid on and gave it back to me. And put it in my suitcase. So it was all very surreal, and I instantly made quite a lot of friends with that little bottle of poppers, which I don't think they've ever heard of in Venezuela. It was the whole day was just completely surreal, but it was also a massive relief because I'd been in that police station for a long time. My skin had gone yellow. I'd lost a lot of weight. I'd been ill. I hadn't had access to medicine, and all of a sudden I get taken in this prison and there's men walking around everywhere. There's palm trees everywhere. It was it was like paradise compared to what I just come from. But at that point I had no idea of
what you're getting into.
Yeah.
Why had your skin gone yellow?
Because I hadn't had any sun.
Oh, no sun.
Yeah, because I'd been in I think it'd been 3, and it was all just all dark, not much food, bad water. I had bad stomach because of the diet that I was having. I wasn't too very well.
So take us through how you arrive at your living quarters.
So they took me through. So when you've got this entrance, you've got the men's side, which was to the right, and then you've got the women's side to the left, and then you've got another men's side just kind of like behind. So there were some English girls in there. So once the guards had checked me in, they got the English girls, gave me my suitcase, and just, told me to go. And the English girls walked me down this kind of corridor of this courtyard, and everyone there's clapping. Because I'm like fresh blood, So I'm walking down and there's 99, Venezuelan women there and a few Dutch, and they're all going, yeah, gringa. And I don't know what else they were saying. I'm just there with my suitcase. They're all running at me, trying to get through my suitcase and look at what I've got.
What?
Yeah,
stealing your stuff?
Straight away, mate. They're trying to straight away. They're on it, trying to, and I'm just like hanging on to it for dear life. Legs, arms wrapped around it. It's everything I've got in the world now. My daughter's gone. This is my suitcase. It's everything. I was willing to die for it. Yeah. So, and then I think it was also a test as well to see. Am I just gonna freak out and give up my stuff, and are you going to walk all over me for 10 years? Or, it's, and because then afterwards they were all laughing and joking. And so I don't know, I think it's a kind of initiation.
It's like a heart check.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And where did you sleep then?
So, in a cell again, bigger than this one. It was a lot better. Not like England cells. There was probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 people, 10 girls in there. And it had toilets in there, and there was beds in there and bits of furniture, and it was partitioned off. Like they'd made like wires. I don't know if they did the same thing where they'd put like wires across the ceilings with sheets hanging down, so you could make your own little section within the room,
Yeah,
so
where we were at, you
click.
couldn't hang anything. It was against the rules, and
Oh,
they
was
come
it?
in and just put, even the towels drying, they just come in and tear them down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So you how many people were in that cell?
About 10 to 15, I think.
And were they friendly to you?
Yeah. I mean, I had like a prep talk from the English girls.
What advice did they give you?
Mixed advice. I was so confused because their advice was conflicting, and they were telling me about the prison, and I couldn't believe, even though they've been there 5 years, and even though Latina in the prison, in the police station, had also told me that the men had, guns and pistolas, and I was struggling to comprehend. And then they explained that the guys on the roof, were prisoners. I just thought they were like exaggerating, trying to frighten me, maybe, or it's just too much for a Westerner to even to comprehend that. It's just, so even in the environment again, it's just like they're exaggerating this, a little bit. And the advice was just, like I said, conflicting. 1 minute it's like, be hard, and the next minute it's like, just stay away. And I was just like, I'm just gonna have to figure this shit out for myself, aren't I?
So you figuring things out for yourself, you learned that the men's had different levels according to their wealth.
Yeah, it's a hierarchy.
So how can you describe the hierarchy?
So the tops, there's two sections of men, because they're from gangs that come from the streets, a bit like Bloods and Crips. These gangs can't mix because they want to kill each other from the streets. So each section of the men has a boss, so they call them a prang. And they're the ones that run the prison, not the governor, not the guards, not the, screws. These are the ones that run the prison.
The drug gang boss.
Yes, yeah. So you've got the boss from each kind of gang, and then beneath him you've got the number 2, which is the lieutenant, and then there'll be they were called a carro, just like a group of people that are there to protect them if they need to go out of their area, if they need to talk to the other prisoners in the other side, or if they need to go down to the offices and talk to the director. And so the people that have money, so if they're selling drugs in there, or if they've got a business, or they own a restaurant, or they own a workshop, they don't have to do the shitty jobs. But if you haven't got money, you have to go on guard. You have to go and patrol the roof with the guns. They've got like lookout points as well across the kind of field that have to be manned, like 20, to make sure that gang aren't going to try and come over. And so if you've got money and it's your shift, you can, because everyone has a shift to do. The guys, this is, not the girls. So if you've got money, you just pay someone to do your shift for you. And if you haven't got money, then you have to do your shift, which is sitting there for, I don't know how many hours with a gun, waiting and looking, and, like a war zone.
And how soon was it before shots were fired?
First morning that I woke up.
What happened?
And I got woken up by shots that were fired. And then about, 5 minutes after that, an alarm. Like like the siren when the bombs were coming in the war in London, and there's that siren. There's a siren like that went off, and when the siren goes off, it means someone's been killed. And so this was being explained to me, and the Venezuelan women are freaking out, because their husbands and their sons and their family are also in prison. And they're involved in these, gangs. A little person's not going to get, shot or killed, or, not unless they've done something stupid. It's the people that are involved in this. So it's in the women's part, the door doesn't get opened. We can't come out whilst it's all being dealt with. And all the women are just traumatised, waiting to find out who it is, is it their husband, is it their son, waiting to hear, who's died. So that was the very first morning that I was there. I got woken up to that. Yeah. And
did you see the aftermath of that, like a body or anything?
I saw a lot worse than that. There was like a war type thing that went on for about 3 days, and the National Guards wouldn't even come in for 3 days. They didn't come in. They didn't, because the National Guards come in and do what's called numero every day, twice a day.
Count.
Yeah, they come in. You have to stand up a wall and they do count. And they didn't come in for 3 days to do count. They didn't. It was out of control. The one side blew up the Maxima with the grenades. Another side, the Maxima just went gone. There was holes blown in the walls. And then there's like the gates where the office is, where the infirmaria is, but that's right next to the Maxima, which has just been blown up. And all the screws have locked themselves in the offices. So all the gates are closed. So what they're doing is they're running where the hole is in the wall, where the guys are running out with dead bodies, carrying dead bodies, with people that have been shot that are still alive. There's a couple of stretchers there.
Yeah.
But no one's the ambulances, the hospital wouldn't even come. Like, it was all over the news. The ambulances wouldn't come. They couldn't get into the infirmary. So there's dead bodies on stretchers for 2 days, 3 days.
So are you seeing any of this?
Yeah, all of it.
You've seen all of it?
All of it, yeah.
So the first time you saw a dead body, how did that make you feel?
It was that shock thing again, and I think that's how my brain managed to just cope with it. Was I couldn't really process what was happening, it was just, and then it got to a point where it was kind of normal, these things happening.
Guns going off,
guns going off, people getting killed. This period was quite extreme, but it was part of prison. It was part of prison life, and you just had to. What could you do? I just had to deal with it and try, and move away from where you could see this stuff, and stay in the cells or stay in the courtyard and just try and stay away from it until it was over.
How were sex offenders dealt with in Venezuelan prison?
Oh, they get killed. They get tortured and killed.
Have you got any stories of that happening?
Yeah. The whole time I was there, I only saw 2 sex offenders. The women are safe. We can all mix with the men and have relationships, sexual relationships, and people getting pregnant or whatever. And there's no fear of any of the women getting attacked by any of the prisoners because they'll get killed. There is a law there, so there's nothing to be frightened of in there for the women. But a sex offender, I was in court once and I was downstairs and there was a sex offender that had been sentenced, and the judge let his family come down to see him in the cells before he went to prison, because she knew that by sentencing him to prison, you're sentencing them to you're giving them the death sentence. Because that's, when there's no secret. What happens is the guards, the National Guards, one group go back before the prisoners. They go back with all the paperwork and what the crimes are. And then the guards will go over to the prison bosses of where the sex offender is going to go to. And the guards will let the prison boss know that you've got, one Jose coming in this afternoon and he's a sex offender and this is his crime and this is what he's done. and he'll get tortured for about 3 days. So that seems to be the standard kind of, 3 days. And then he's given the opportunity to hang himself.
When you say tortured, what do you mean?
Beaten, burnt, like they'll hang him and just beat him, burn him. I don't know we don't get to see all of that, but we get to see the hanging afterwards.
You get to see the hanging. That's like a public.
Because it's a very public, show of, this is what happens.
So in the book, there was one that came in and he didn't make it very long, did he? He didn't last very long, a sex offender. Didn't they just gun him down as soon as he came in?
Whereabouts? Do you know? I can't remember.
Can't remember. Yeah.
Sorry.
One of them just came in. One got tortured, and then one, as soon as he came in, they just
shot him down.
They just shot him down.
They didn't even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. You said there's a convict code whereby the women are respected, and
Absolutely.
if you lay your hands on a woman,
Yeah.
death penalty.
Yeah.
And you can mix with the men.
Yeah.
So does that mean the women can go from the men's side and vice versa?
Yeah. Yeah, all day long. We just get separated at night time. So the gates, unless there's a problem. So if the gang leader, like the prang, if he knows that there's an issue that needs to be dealt with, they keep the women away from it. So the gang leader will go to the director and ask the director not to let the women out. Like please can you not let the women out tomorrow because there's some issues that we need to deal with. So we'll know if we get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and we can't get out, then we know that someone's getting killed.
Wow. So is this the prison that you were at where the girls come in, the women come in who are like the bad women?
No,
that's a different one.
That's a different one.
What stories have I missed from this first prison then?
The party.
Okay. Tell us about the party.
Yeah. After this period, this 3 days where this war had been going on, after that the guards came in and then they tortured the prisoners because they have to assert their authority and show, that they're at the end of the day, they're in control, and this is the punishment for, putting them to shame, really.
And what did they do to the prisoners?
They made them lie down. It was boiling hot, and they made them lie down on their stomachs all day from like 9 o'clock in the morning till like 9 o'clock at night on a concrete kind of tarmac surface whilst they were patrolling the mall with swords, so that if anybody kind of, tried to move, they'd get whacked, they'd get beaten, the ringleaders would get a pretty severe beating. Yeah, so tensions are quite, really high. People are upset. It's a very strange atmosphere. So to diffuse the tension and try and get the kind of order and the flow back, the main boss of the kind of like richer side organised a big party. And you can see the entrance from the women's bit. You can see the gate where all the cars and everyone like comes in. We just see this pickup truck coming in loaded with speakers. I'm like, what's going on? And then we get taken over to the men's side. They've set all the speakers up. There's loads of miche, which is homebrew that they make, but it's not like, it's not like apple cider, it's stuff that they've been distilling and buried underground, and it's moonshine, basically. So there's like loads of moonshine around, there's loads of coke around, there's music on out of this big sound system that they've also managed to bring a load of drugs and weapons in. We concealed them within the speakers because the guards have been paid off. We're playing volleyball against, volleyball matches. And then after that, and you've got a prison guard next to you that you're, having a drink with and smoking a joint with and doing a line with, and it sounds glamorous and it sounds exciting, but it's to try and get rid of the trauma and to try and relax, because otherwise it's just all going to kick off again, and people need to let that, release that kind of that pain somehow or another, and try, you create vibes with music, don't you? You create, shamanic vibes and happy vibes, and especially when you mix some moonshine in with the equation, by the end of the day, everything's all right.
So 1 minute there's like shootouts, murder, torture, and next thing they're all just getting drunk on moonshine and doing cocaine and having a rave.
Next thing it's a rave. Yeah.
That's got to just mess with your head. Because it just goes from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Insane.
You said there was sexual relations between the males and the females.
Yeah.
Like conjugal visits, they used to have those in some of the states, and I think you had to coordinate the visit, and there was a certain room.
Yeah.
How was it in here?
So in the first prison that I was in, there was no special area. For the women, we just went over to the men's side, or they came over if you had your boyfriends. But when it was visiting days, the women, even though the visitors could go everywhere, they could walk around everywhere, all parts. But the women prisoners, we got locked in our part, because a lot of the male prisoners that had girlfriend prisoners also had wives that were coming in on their visiting days. So that kind of, disasters needed to be kept separate. So the wives would just come in on the visiting days. And, if there's a cell with, 4 or 5 guys in or whatever, the guy just says to his other male friends, give us half an hour, I imagine, my wife's here, and they probably take it in turns to have the room to themselves.
Did you make any friends in this prison?
Yeah.
Any you can tell us the stories?
I don't, in that one, in San Antonio. Yeah. Most of them it's all the same story, really, with the foreigners. There was a lot of Dutch, there was some Dutch, some German, and it's all the same. It's all the same thing.
Drugs.
Yeah, it's all drugs. And the guys, I didn't really know too much in that one. I was only there a year. I was learning Spanish. I was learning the way, I don't think I knew too many stories, but when I got to the last prison in Merida, by then I was fluent in Spanish. I was making good friends. They're just big. The boss leaders, they're big time drug dealers. The biggest drug dealers in the country, in South America. They're linked to Peru, to Colombia, to the trade routes, and then the National Guard used to bring the drugs, a lot of the drugs that get taken at the airports. So I got caught with 5 kilos, I think it was. It was 3 kilos by the time I went to court, obviously. So the guards, they confiscate the drugs at the airport, but they don't know what to do with them. So they'll bring them into the prison and give them to the gang leaders, or the gang leaders obviously, pay them. And then it gets redistributed again around the country from the prison.
Yeah, just like Escobar.
Yeah.
He'd have stage busts, and the police would come and bust the warehouse, and the media would be there, and the police captain would get a promotion, and then the drugs would just go right back to Pablo, and he'd just send them on to America.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty much the same. I think that's how it works.
It is all over Central South, all over the world. It works like that. Yeah. It's too valuable a product to dispose of.
Yeah.
So, just in this first prison, then, the final story from here then would be your sentencing day.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was kind of okay, because I knew what was going to happen from day one. From the airport, I had been told, and by the time it came to my I didn't know my sentencing day. I just got called in the morning and told I was going to court, and I went to court. Had this sentence, had this hearing in Spanish with an interpreter that couldn't speak English, so that pretended then was getting paid for interpreting, that wasn't interpreting very well, so it was all in Spanish basically. And I got given a load of paperwork, and then when I came back to the prison, one of the English girls asked me what had happened, and I said I don't know, and I gave her the paperwork, and she said, well, you got caught with 3 keys, you pleaded guilty, you got sentenced to 10 years. And it was kind of it was a kind of relief that,
because you got the certainty then of knowing it's done.
Yeah, it's done. Now I can
adjust mentally.
Yeah, adjust and start trying to maybe accept the truth of what's going on.
Getting sentenced to 9.5 years was one of the happiest days of my life, because I could see when I was going to get out after facing a big sentence.
Yeah.
So why did you get moved to prison?
I put in for it. It was a miracle, actually. I'd been there about a year, and I picked up my drug addiction again. So I had a raging drug addiction, out of control, 10 times worse than it had ever been in England, because it's just ridiculously cheap, ridiculously, strong. It was just ruin me, and I felt I was kind of feeling like I had nothing to live, 10 years, I couldn't, once I accepted what was going on, I was like, I don't know, I think I can face 10 years of this. I'm processing what's going on now and understanding it, and I don't think I'm strong enough. And I took an overdose, because I just wanted to die. I just wanted a way out, and I took an overdose.
What was the overdose?
I think it was Ritalin or Rehypnol. One of the two. These tablets that the guys used to take, if they were going to fight, they used to take these tablets and then drink loads of coffee, so to get them peaked. So I think it's Ritalin, isn't it? That's the stuff.
It's like speed, isn't it?
Yeah. So I just got a load of those and just nailed a load of those and went to sleep and hoped that I'd never wake up. And I was out for about 2 days, I think.
Hell.
Yeah, about 2 days. I was never got took to hospital, never got took to the medical wing. The guards came in when I wasn't getting out for numero. They'd come in. Oh yeah, she's breathing still. She's still alive. So they told me I was out for about 2 days. And when I came round, I was like, no, why? Why? And I was convinced that I should have been dead, So I got on my hands and knees and I prayed and cried like I've never prayed and cried in my whole life, and absolutely begged, a higher power to help me to get out of there, to please help me get out of there. The fact that I felt like the fact that I wasn't dead meant that there was a reason that I didn't know why and I didn't know what. But if that was the case, then help me and get me out of here, please. And if you get me out of here, wherever I go to next, I won't smoke any crack. I'll stop sniffing coke, and I'll stop. Just please get me out of here. If you've got a plan for me. And I kind of made a deal, which I don't know if you really supposed to do that, but and then I got transferred a week later, which is unheard of.
So you applied for a transfer?
Yeah, I applied for it then, and then a week later.
So what was the journey like to the new place?
Oh my gosh, it was insane. It was on a coach, like a National Express, not a prison coach. It was just a coach that they'd booked, a National Express with 2 National Guards, and we sat at the back, and I wasn't handcuffed. There wasn't really much security. The one National Guard got a bit fruity because it was right at the back of the coach. Nobody's going to say anything. It's National Guard, I'm terrified, whatever, yeah.
So he's trying it on with you?
Yeah. He wanted a hand job.
Oh.
On the back seat of the National Express.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did he indicate that to you?
He grabbed my hand and put it down his pants.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was interesting, and then we stopped at some like a service station, because it was quite a long. We had to get on a ferry, and we stopped at a service station, and everyone got off the coach, and they asked me if I wanted a drink, and I said, yeah, I want a bottle of rum, especially after I've just given you a hand job. Which I felt, what can you do? What can you do? Say no. I was terrified, I was terrified. They've got big guns, So I was like, yeah, I'll have a bottle of rum. And they said, okay, we'll be back here at the coach in like half an hour, and just let me go. And I was just like, now's my chance. Where'd you go? I can't speak Spanish. I've got no money. I've got no phone cards. How far am I possibly going to get in that moment, with that lack of skills and knowledge, and, before they catch me, 2 miles down the road?
Yeah.
And then, I'm going to get beaten, severely. So then when we got back on the coach, got the bottle of rum, got on a ferry, got let loose again on the ferry to just, roam around wherever.
Taste of freedom.
Oh, I debated about jumping off. I was on the boat looking over at the waves thinking, shall I do it? Shall I do it? Shall I just jump off? And, as we were getting, I was like, I can swim there. But again, it was like, but then what are you going to do? How far are you going to get, Natalie, before, the police or the guards, get you? You don't know anybody or anything or anyone. But it was that taste of freedom as well. The wind and the sea and the boat. And it was just like, for a moment, I was able to just absorb that moment, and just forget for a little while the actual reality of the situation I was really in.
So what was the next prison called, and how was it arriving there?
It was Los Teques. There's 2 Los Teques. I think there's 2 Los Teques in Caracas. There's a men's one and there's a women's one, but they're separate.
Oh, so it was all just women in this new one? It was
all just women. Yeah, there was actually some order to this. There was education, there was jobs, there was food, there was proper kind of, wings and cells with your own rooms and bunks, and I really kind of recovered and absorbed the last year. I had some time to actually process the things that I'd been witnessing and the things that I'd been going through, and had an opportunity to try and, take stock of the situation and try and, deal with it and comprehend it a little bit. And I was still grateful that, I still had that faith inside of me, and great, gratefulness, the thank you. So it was boring compared to the first one, but I was happy with boring. I was more than happy with
no gunshots.
No gunshots, just like dead snakes and I'm trying to think the most, education, work. I had an opportunity to earn money there, and actually start learning Spanish properly. And
what was your job?
Sewing.
Yeah,
because you could take it back to it was just like doing these cross-stitch things that went on cushions, so you could go to the like, not warehouse, what do you call it? I don't know. Education kind of block, and take your stuff there, and then when education finished, you could take it back to your cells, and the more you did, the more you got paid. So I'd just be there, and it's quite meditative as well. It's focused, you're getting a bit of money, you've got your mind occupied, you're tired, and there was good games, organised, games, kicking ball and volleyball, and there's quite a lot of stuff going on there.
So it was all gravy until the naughty women show up.
That wasn't in that prison.
Oh, that's still not that
That's
one.
still not that
'Cause that's
one.
one of the most harrowing stories. Is that what they do to that woman?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
Oh.
It was such a relief to be there, and then it was only about 8 months, and then all of a sudden, one morning, I'm just being told that we're being shipped out.
And where were you getting shipped out to?
San Juan de Lagunitas, which is in Meridad.
So what was that journey like?
Long. Yeah, that was really long. I can't remember how we got there actually. Probably National Express. It must have been well, I doubt it was National Express. You know, it was probably. I think it was Megabus actually. Yeah, I can't remember.
Is it the one up in the mountains?
Los Teques.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right at the top of the mountains in Meridad, which is about 4 hours away from the Colombian border.
Oh, she's on the border of Colombia here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back into a mixed prison.
And did you know anyone at this new prison?
I don't know. I don't know if there were some people that might have been transferred there from some of the other prisons or transferred there beforehand. I really can't remember.
So what were your
Shaun.
living quarters like?
The same as the first one. Big cells sectioned off again into your little kind of groups. Toilets in there. There was hardly ever water, which was a bit of a pain in the ass, you know, for flushing the toilets and washing the clothes and trying to wash your, you know, the water could go off. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days at a time. You know, no running water whatsoever. You know, when you've got 900 people living.
So you got a men's section on this one?
Yeah, there were 3 men's sections on this one. A lot more discreet than the first one. You've still got your bosses again of each section, and they're still very protected. You know, if they're going out of their area, they're in the middle with about 20 guys around them with their guns and with their knives all on display as a saying, you know, we're protecting this guy, and you know, we're going to fight if anyone's going to come for him. But apart from that, they're not really walking around. They're keeping, I think, for the sake of the women, you know, they were a little bit more respectful, I think, in trying to keep that, you know, away from the sight of the women.
So what happened when the disruptive women came?
There was this poor girl there. We were all going over to the men's side. We were playing volleyball over there all the time, which was pretty, you know, it was great, you know, good volleyball matches, mixed teams and stuff. And some of the women would stay in the women's bit and not come over. And there was a transfer in of some malandras, they're called, troublemakers. They keep getting moved around. And they were, you know, like a gang. All of a sudden, there's this woman, you know, there's never been, in my experience of jail so far, you know, this woman gang. And I woke up one morning, I think I just got there, distraught again, because I just saw this environment and I thought, oh God, you know, here we go again. I just come from this, you know, calm place, and I thought I knew that I was going back into what had happened. And my embassy had come to see me, and I had this little wooden locker next to the side of my bed. And when your embassy come to see you, it's like you're 7 years old and Father Christmas has been. You know, they've got biscuits and deodorant and rice and, you know, hot chocolate, and it's just like Christmas. And I woke up one morning and I had a girl sat on top of me with a knife to my throat, telling me to open my cabinet and give her like all the stuff that my embassy had just brought me the day before. And at that point I was feeling that kind of I wish I was dead thing again. So I thought, you know what, do me a favour, come on then.
So what did you do?
I wanted her to do me, so I threw her off. I threw her off me, thinking that she'd like get me, and she didn't. I threw her off me, and I managed to get the knife out of her hand, and ended up chasing her around. I was so pissed off. If I'd have thought about doing that, I wouldn't have done it, But because I wanted to lose,
snapped.
Yeah, and it's just like, is it? Come on, then. I've got, nothing to lose and everything to gain.
The red mist.
Yeah, yeah. So I got left alone after that. They left. They didn't try and bully me.
How many members of this gang were there?
I think it was about 3 or 4.
And who was the leader?
Her name was Lachina, but not the same China that was in the police station with me in the beginning.
So Lachina was like the enforcer for the gang.
Yeah, she was the leader, the troublemaker.
Okay.
Bad. She was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was robbing people. They raped this girl one day whilst we were all out playing volleyball over at the men's side. There was a really young, vulnerable girl there, and we came back and an ambulance was there, and she was being taken out, and she was in hospital for I don't know, at least 3-4 months, and they'd pinned her down and they'd raped her with a broom, and they'd split her from this. The female screws told us how bad it was, and they'd split this girl from front to back and raped her with this broom. Absolutely, savaged her. And the girl came back into prison that had been in hospital, gone. Absolutely gone. She's just stand there shaking, wet peeing herself, and you couldn't even communicate with her. We had to feed her, we had to change her, we had to wash her, we had to dress her. She was just, in another place.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the gang leader ended up in a situation, didn't she?
Yeah.
What happened to her?
She was then bullying another girl. And she was robbing this girl, and it was a poor girl, and she didn't even have an embassy. It was a Venezuelan girl. She didn't have much, and Lachina was just bullying her and robbing her all the time. And the male boss on the other side was getting wind of this and wasn't happy about it. They want the women to be happy and content, and this wasn't on, and he gave her a gun. And they this is unheard of, for girls to have guns. The men just completely protect the women from that side of life, but a man, one of the prisoners, can't go and shoot this Lachina. The men can't touch her, but something needs to be done about the situation. So he gives, the girl that's being bullied a gun, and we don't know at the time. This all comes out afterwards. You don't know he's got this gun, and then she snapped. And we're sat outside in the courtyard one day, and Lachina comes running out of the cell, which first of all is bizarre, because who's she running away from? How come she's running away, shitting herself, terrified. And then we see why, because the other girl that's been bullied is running behind her with a gun, pointing a gun at her, shoots her, gets her in the back of the leg, and she goes down. And then when she's gone down, the girl just goes up to her and just put her in the back of the head. She's in the back of the head, and it's in the courtyard.
Wow. What happened to the shooter?
What, to the gun or to the person that shot her?
To the person.
She got kind of sliced up. Everyone got put in their cells, and they took away Lachina, and the whole prison was completely locked off, and we weren't allowed over to the men's side. The men weren't. There was no communication going on. The phones got locked off for a little while. until, it came out what had happened. Because when the men do that, there's no investigations. It's just left alone. But this was different. And then they find out that it was her. So they locked her in a cell on her own. But there were still the other people from the gang. And so the girl that had shot her was getting shipped out, and we were all locked behind the bars, but the courtyard's there, and the other girl that was part of the gang said to the screws and the National Guards as they were taking her out, they said, you can't just let her take her out without her not even having a mark on her. You need to let me kind of revenge my friend, and there needs to be a sign, she's killed this person. So they unlocked her as well, and we could all see in the courtyard. And then a lot of the girls had made shanks with the broom handles, and they'd put razor blade, like really long broom handles, and put razor blades on the end of them. And as the girl was walking past, they were poking the broom handles through to try and slice her. And then the other girl just went launching at her and just absolutely pummeled her. She didn't have a knife or anything on her. That all got checked first, and just pummeled her to the floor until the guards then just separated them and took her out, transferred her.
Jesus, things calmed down after that.
It was really tense, not straight away, no, because the other girls were still there, and they were monitoring everything that everyone was doing. The guys didn't know what was going on. A couple of us had mobiles, but we were having to be really careful, because these girls didn't want us telling the guys what was going on, and the guys are ringing the prison phones as well. So they're stood there by the prison phones listening to all the conversations. They're walking around the cells to see if anyone's talking on their mobiles. It was really, really, really tense for a while, until then they got shipped out, which was just the biggest relief for everybody.
So all the girl gang got moved.
Yeah, got moved as well.
So did things go back to relative normal?
Yeah, except we stopped being able to go over to the men's side really so much. We used to go over there quite regularly and play games and have little parties again and socialise, and that kind of stopped then.
So did anything else notable happen before you met the guard who helped you escape?
I got really pissed in front of my judge, my solicitors, and in front of all the press of Venezuela. Yeah, I was so nervous. Yeah, didn't do myself any favours. They've got a thing called gaita over there, which is like Christmas carols. And they asked me to join the gaita band because it was I was a novelty, in English, a gringa, blonde hair, blue eyes, singing and dancing, gaita. And one of the Venezuelan guys in the band was actually a famous Venezuelan singer. So the gaita band actually started to get a reputation for itself. And we started to be invited out of the prison, to go and on tour, yeah, on gaita tour. So before that happened, we had this, show where all the press and the papers and the judges and the solicitors were all invited, to come and see us do this, gaita show. And I was so nervous. And I was so nervous. I was shaking. I was absolutely terrified. I was shaking. My legs were wobbly. So I asked the guys to give me a bit of, moonshine to help me with the nerves. But I just drank the whole bottle and then went on to try to do the gaita thing. I couldn't even stand up. Couldn't even stand up. I got carried off. Yeah, so I had that go in my file. It was that was interesting. and then I had to pay the administrator the equivalent like £20 to take it out of my file, and then I had to pay the judge like a bit of money as well, like when I was applying for my day releases, to pretend that had, never happened. I think that's all I can think of at the moment before Jose turned up.
So describe meeting Jose.
Oh, wow. I thought he was so hot. I was so attracted to him, but he was so rude. Like he really was. I was like trying to get his attention and stuff, and he was always just kind of calling me like Bora, like donkey, and like messing around with me and just like insulting me a little bit. And but I don't know, I just felt an attraction to him. Like literally love at first sight, that strong. So I sent him my phone number because I had a phone, and he just started ringing me, and carried on with the insults, over the phone. But it was just it was banter, it was just banter, and we fell in love. Like we really, really, fell in love, and it took me a long time to believe that he loved me. And, poor guy, what he had to do to convince me that he loved me. Because I thought that I was just something, he was working there 4 weeks on, 3 weeks off. So I thought that I was probably just, a way of him to, pass the time a little bit more, interestingly. But no, it was real. It was real.
And he, in the beginning, he kind of like said he wasn't interested in you because he was trying to treat his job professionally. He was new and he wants to have a good record. Yeah,
well, he'd just been sent there because he'd got caught bringing some weed in the other prison that he'd been working in. Him and his mate, they'd been bringing weed in the van in the other prison they'd been working in. So he'd been sent there, because, like, as a kind of, probation kind of thing. So, I think he was trying to be a little bit more professional, but that didn't last long because he started doing the same thing there as well.
Did people know that you guys were falling in love?
Yeah, everybody knew.
Because where I was housed, there was a guy that was and a female guard, and when word spreads, prisoners get jealous. They think, right, why aren't I? Maybe if I get rid of him, I'll have a chance with her. Yeah, there's all kinds of
it was
games, mind games.
So many. Yeah, everybody knew because he didn't hide it. For me, I would have bet he just didn't care. He didn't hide it. It was kind of all right with the prisoners, because he would let me know when we were going to get raided and stuff. Because I had a phone and he'd bought me a phone as well. So when the National Guards were coming in to spin the cells and to do searches and stuff, he'd ring me up and let me know so I could go and tell everybody that had phones and all the drug dealers and everyone that we were going to...
So it was a resource.
Yeah, and they all knew that the information was coming from him, so it was working in, everyone's favours, really, and getting, bringing things in. He was bringing the drugs into the prison with the guards and stuff as well. But there were like two lots of prison guards that we had, the las brujas that we called them, which were the witches, that were completely against it, and did everything that they possibly could to keep us, apart. And then there was another group of guards that could, because Latin Americans are very, very passionate people, and they're all about love. So there was this other group of guards that could see that this was real, and did everything they could to put us, to support us and give us time together and alone. And, he'd arranged to do a hospital shift and then, give like one of the guards, £20 phone credit to get me down to the hospital. And then he'd like give someone else some phone credit for them to not do their shift and swap, you just try and, so we had some people that were really, really on our side, especially
because you had a senior staff member on your side, didn't you? Like a deputy warden or something.
There was, yes.
You got in trouble a few times and this guy helped you?
Yeah, we took him out. Yeah, he was the deputy governor, because the governor had a thing for me. So he called me into the office one day and asked me what he'd heard, that there was this relationship going on with me and Jose, and I was like, no, I was like, there's nothing going on. That's just people just, talking, and because I'm a gringo and just, they just don't like me and whatever. And it was his, like the deputy director that was really good friends with Jose. So at night times they'd let me out. They'd come and get me at night when everyone else was sleeping. They'd come and get me and let me out, and so I could spend, time with him. When I got my day releases, we'd take him out. We'd go, and especially Jose wasn't working and it was carnival, and we'd go out and we'd take him to a bar and we'd get him really pissed and then ask him to phone up the jail and say that I didn't have to come back, and he'd ring up the jail and say I didn't have to come back for like a week. So because we bought him like a bottle of rum at the carnival. Yeah, it was pretty nuts.
So you start to take liberties then?
Absolutely, completely and utterly.
And is that going to backfire?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it started to piss people off. I was probably spending maybe 2 nights every 3 weeks or something in the prison, and I was bouncing around in like real nice clothes, and I was having food sent over to me all the time. He'd sent some mariachis in to sing to me for my birthday. They'd call it was really and it's just I was on anything. I just had anything I wanted really in there, and so and I think they were getting pissed off
when people have got nothing and they see that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sharing everything I've got, but if I'd have been Venezuelan, I'm sure that people wouldn't have got annoyed at all. But when there's Venezuelan people in there and they've got families and they've got kids there and they're trying to get their day releases, and then there's an English girl that's coming back
waltzing Matilda,
that's out most of the time and doing what she wants, I can understand those feelings. I said that I was going out on the pretense that I had a job, I had familiar support out there. I didn't have any of those things. We just paid everybody to say that we were just going out, and we got wind that because we kept paying the judge all the time. Between us, we were paying off different people. And then we got a warning that the judge was saying that she was going to have to do something. It had gone, too far, and that I was going to get my day releases revoked.
So what plan did you formulate?
To get out of there.
Out of where?
Out of the jail. At first, it was like I didn't know what to do because I still had like 5 years left on my sentence.
And how old were you at this point?
25.
Okay.
I think, yeah. Yeah, so I still had 5 years left. So
you'd served a full 5 by now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, 4.5. 4.5 I'd been there for. And it was, we kind of thought, right, shall I ride it out? Shall we do the 5 years? Because we were happy and we were in love. I thought, should we ride out the 5 years? Because in 2 years, I can probably, try and get this day releases stuff again. And then we were like, but they're going to move him around here, there and everywhere, and it's going to be hard. Or because we had some money, and we thought, or should get out of there. And I thought, I've got a daughter in England that I abandoned. I felt like I abandoned. I was carrying massive feelings of guilt, and I thought, how dare I be here happy like this when I've got, when I've left when I did that to my child. So I need to, let's get out of here. So, we made a plan.
So you're on the border of Colombia, aren't you?
Yeah. I had to smuggle myself across the border.
So what is the plan then? How are you going to do that? How are you going to get...
We had no plan how to get across the border of Colombia. We had a plan to get to the border, and then we were just going to wing it.
So what was the plan to get to the border?
So I was going to go out on a day release.
This was the last day, wasn't it, before you were going to get revoked?
Yeah. So I had planned to go out on a day release. And
you got up an hour early, which was abnormal.
Yeah. But there was one of the prison guards knew, and one of the prisoners knew. Well, one of the female prisoner guards knew, and one of the
you must have trusted them.
She'd been helping us. So much. Yeah, she really had. We used to meet up with her, like out, not in prison, and I had a good relationship with her. So, and we had there's like checkpoints where I can't pass those checkpoints because of the region that I'm in, and the National Guard, they're going to know me because they go on tour. So they might do 6 months in a prison, and then 6 months at a checkpoint, and then 6 months at an airport. So I couldn't go to a Venezuelan airport because I'm taking a risk.
And you stand out.
Yeah, blonde hair. I had blonde hair then, blue eyes. They're going to be, there's that gringa that was, she's still got 5 years left. So the plan was, right, we'll go to Colombia. And we managed to pay off most of the checkpoints. We managed to find out who was going to be working on the checkpoints and get most of the guards paid off. And I was going to meet Jose at the bus station. But it didn't quite go to plan.
And why is that?
I think there was floods or raining, and there was like mudslides, and I couldn't get to the bus station. I couldn't get, the routes were all blocked off, and I'm on this bus, and he's trying to go every way that he can, and there's a landslide one way, and there's a river that's burst the other way, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't go back to jail. I can't go back to jail. This has to work. This has to work. And we got to this river, and I just pleaded with the bus driver to drive through it.
But this is the second bus, right? There's a first bus and a taxi, isn't there?
Yeah.
Go back to the first bus first.
This is the bus.
Oh, this is the same bus?
This is,
Okay.
I think this is the same bus. Or was there one that turned around?
There was this one that turned around.
There's the one that turned around, and then they'd have to change buses and get on a different bus.
And you got on in a taxi, and then he took you so far, and then he wouldn't go through the water.
He wouldn't go through the water. So then I got on this other bus, but then I saw these 4x4s getting through the river. And I pleaded. There must have been some energy that I gave to the bus driver, begging, without telling him my situation. I think he could see that, I need to get across. This is like a life or death situation. Please try it. And he did, and we got through it, which was a miracle.
Let's slow down. That bus is entering the water.
Full of people.
The whole bus is full of people.
Yeah, it's absolutely rammed full of people.
And
and they're all supporting me because they all want to get across the river.
What's happening as the bus is entering the water?
I was kind of sinking.
It's sinking.
It's going right under.
It's going under. Yeah. How high's the water?
Above the wheels. Yeah. But everyone on the bus is kind of on my side. It's almost like they could see the desperation, but they also want to get across. So I think, when your car's running out of petrol and you manage to get it to the petrol station on pure willpower, I think that combination of all those people on that bus, willing it through that river.
At what point with it going through the river did you realise it was going to make it?
After we got halfway across.
You knew?
Yeah, and it started going up.
And how are you then? How are you feeling?
Ecstatic. Yeah, everyone's clapping. Yeah. When the pilot lands his plane, everyone's like, yeah, and I'm just like, like the sigh of relief, because I'm just like.
And how's Jose handling all this? Or is he somewhere else waiting for you?
Oh, he's somewhere else.
Okay, and you're running behind now because of all these delays.
So behind, yeah. And we haven't got phones because we've sold our phones because we're trying to get every, penny together.
Yeah.
So I'm not able to phone him. He's not able to get in contact with me. And I'm running hours behind now. So
he might think you've been arrested or something.
I've got, I think that's exactly what he thought. I didn't think he'd be there.
Yeah.
I thought when I got to the kind of taxi station, I didn't think, he'd be there. And then I thought, what am I going to do?
So this taxi station, the rendezvous point, that's still in Venezuela?
Yes.
You've yet to cross the border?
Yeah, we haven't got across the border yet. But I'm panicking now because I'm thinking, the fuck am I going to do if he's not there? I can't go back to jail. I can't go back there now. I get in, and I've got no money. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what am I going to do? So I start to panic a little bit and get off the bus and just walk up the road and at the passageway, and there he is.
He was there.
He was there with his prison guard mate as well, who came, who'd come along for the journey.
So when you set eyes on him, what are you thinking? It's a miracle.
Yeah, it was just butterflies it's just love. It was just pure love and belief in love and belief that love had the power to conquer any obstacle ever.
Including crossing the Colombian border.
Well, there was some praying involved with that one.
So what happens?
So, because we'd only figured out what to do up to there. And then Jose said we'd figure it out from there. So we asked this taxi, because a lot of people do these little border runs to Cucuta and back from that village. This is the last village before the crossing. So we asked this taxi if he would take us, and we just hoped that we wouldn't get stopped, because they don't stop everybody going across the border. And we were going to try and hide me under a blanket or something, somehow or another, without the taxi man realising. And then there were these Mexicans that wanted to cross the border as well. So we all decided to share the same taxi. And then as we got to the border, I just kind of pretended that I was asleep. And then I think the guards did stop us, and the taxi driver said something like, "Oh, it's just doing English, you can't speak Spanish, they're just doing a quick run to the air." And they just let us through.
Wow.
I know, which again is...
How did it feel to be across that one?
It's the biggest relief I've ever felt in my whole life, because the moment I'm across the border... That's it, I'm free.
Were you worried when you were planning all this that you would get back to England and they'd send you back to Venezuela?
I wasn't coming back to England. That wasn't the plan.
What was the plan then?
The plan was to go to Spain, and we were supposed to have some work and accommodation lined up for us in Spain. And there were supposed to be people waiting at the airport for us. So the plan was we were going to go to Spain, and we were going to find work in Spain, and I was going to get my daughter sent over from England, and we were going to make a life in Spain, and I was just going to be on the run for whatever the rest of my life.
So
hiding in Spain.
Before we get to Spain then, or wherever you end up, you've crossed the border. Where'd you go next?
Bogota. We found a hostel in Cucuta. Which was pretty terrifying, because we go in and the lady that owns the hostel recommends that we don't go out and that we lock all our possessions in the safe in the room, and because there's some political problems going on. And I was just like, brilliant, this is great. We got to go out because we need to book our coach to get to Bogota.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Jose was like, don't worry about it. And, and I'm thinking, I've since, I'm thinking, I reckon I could probably deal with it. I've seen some stuff by now. Probably more than the women in the hostel,
Yeah.
So we went out, just got the coach ticket, got some food, and just went back to our hotel room and stayed there the night. And then got the coach the next day to Bogota. And another miracle happened, because you get stopped in between Cucuta and Bogota. There's like a border, kind of, not a country border, but like a stop check where the National Guards come on and ask to see everyone's, ID on the coach. So when we found that out, I was thinking, like, I was kind of shitting myself because we didn't have entry stamps on our passports on how we'd got into Colombia.
How did you even have a passport?
I got it off the embassy.
How?
I told them when I had my day releases, I told them that I was applying for jobs and that I needed to have ID and that the only ID I had was my prison ID and that I didn't want to show prison ID. So is there any chance that I could have my passport so that I could paid a little bit of money and got my passport.
But you've got no entry visa into Colombia.
No.
So what happens?
We didn't get stopped on the coach. The coach driver said in 20 years that he'd been driving, that was the first time that they'd never been. We had angels around us.
You had like a force field, didn't you?
Yeah. Love's the strongest power in the world. Yeah.
Everything was just lined up.
It was flowing.
So you get to the airport now. You got tickets booked, or?
No, we went and got some tickets booked when we were in Bogota. Got nicked at the airport.
What do you mean?
We got arrested.
For what?
For not having an entry stamp. They thought I was smuggling drugs. They knew that something
wasn't right.
Something wasn't right. Yeah, they were like, why haven't you got how on earth have you got into Colombia? I played dumb. I said I've come from Venezuela. I've been traveling. With my boyfriend, and I didn't get stopped. I didn't realise you had to get it stamped, and they were like, nah, they weren't falling for that. They weren't falling for that.
Aren't you on the news by now, like escaped person?
No, because I'd bought myself 3 or 4 days out of the jail.
Oh, the work release thing.
Yes, I'd paid off to, and the female guard that knew what we were doing, I phoned her up and said, I'm in Colombia, can you say that you've had permission come through? So I'd bought myself I think it was 4 days grace
so
before.
The clock's ticking.
Yeah, before. So it's like, I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
So they searched the bags and the suitcase, and then asked if we could go, if I minded going to hospital and being X-rayed, because they thought I was smuggling drugs. And I had a feeling that there would be some issues at the airport, so we checked in really early. So obviously they didn't find anything in the bags. So when they started talking about hospital, I said, yeah, can we go now? Here's the money for the taxi. I'll pay for the taxi, because they don't have prison transport really. I said, yeah, can we go now? Because the flight's not for another 5 hours. Here's the money for the taxi. If we go now, maybe it's time to go there, get the x-rays done and get back in time to get the flight. So they didn't take me, because they've just there's too much confidence there for somebody. If they've got a stomach full of drugs, they're not going to be that keen. And they kept saying something's not right. So in the end, we kind of confessed that that there was something that maybe wasn't entirely right, but that it wasn't drugs. And that it wasn't, a problem that Colombia needed to worry about, and how much was it going to cost to, sort this situation out. So we had to pay them $250 each to just let us get on the plane.
Yeah. How did it feel to board that plane?
I couldn't. It just started to sink in, all the luck that we'd had, because whilst I was going through these moments, I wasn't really appreciating, I was just so focused. There was only one outcome, there was no way that the coach was not going to go through the river. That didn't even go through my mind, So when we were actually on the plane and we're so exhausted by now, mentally tired, and I've got to sit down and look back at it all, I'm just like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that I'm on this plane. I can't believe all these obstacles that we just overcame so easily, and I was just so excited for this new life, you know, with Jose that we were going to have together. It was an amazing feeling.
Did people meet you at the airport on the other side?
No, there was nobody there.
So what did you
There
do?
was no work. There was nowhere to stay. There was nobody there. Jose had a friend who had a brother from Venezuela that was living in Spain. So he hooked us up with this guy, and we went and stayed with him for a bit. It just completely screwed all our plans up massively.
Are you running out of money by now?
We're starting to, yeah. So we're trying to find work, not finding work. Neither of us are finding work, and we thought it would be really easy to find work in Spain, but we were in the wrong place. We were in Bilbao, which isn't like it's not easy there to find work. It's cold people. It's
What year did you land in Spain?
2005,
Okay.
2006, yeah.
So what did you do yourselves?
We stayed there for like 9 months trying to find work. We ran out of money. People that we were staying with were feeding us, and we were struggling. So I said to Jose that if we went back to England, I could get free money and somewhere to live off my government, which he couldn't comprehend. You know, he didn't believe me. I was like, no, honestly.
Was there an extradition treaty in place?
No, but I didn't know what the situation was. So I phoned, this was quite funny actually. I phoned the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London, and I'd met a few of them because they'd come over. They'd come over sometimes to Venezuela and talk to us and tell us that there was no repatriation and not to get our hopes up and all that kind of stuff. So I phoned them up and asked them what my status was. You know, I said, if I come back to England, what's the situation? Will I get put back into prison, you know, to finish my sentence off in England? Will I, you know, get shipped back to Venezuela? And they were just so confused because Venezuela hadn't told them that I'd done a runner. They thought I was still in jail. I'd been gone for 9 months. They were like, what do you mean? They said, you can't come back yet. You've still got like another 5 years. And I was like, have you not spoken to Venezuela? I said, I'm not there. I've escaped. I've done a runner. So they were like, where are you? I said, well, that doesn't matter. But here's my email. Can you let me, can you let me know what my status, what my legal status is? So they liaised with Venezuela, and Venezuela said that they weren't interested in extraditing me back there. It cost them a lot of money, you know.
It's probably an embarrassment for them as well, isn't it?
It's you know, the embassy doesn't give them money for me being a prisoner in their jail in an economy that I've not contributed to at all. Costs them money, you know. So yeah, they're probably embarrassed. They're probably relieved because it's, you know, it's one of us gone. It's depleting their resources. And then because I hadn't committed a crime in England, I couldn't get sent to jail in prison in England.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So did you arrive back in England safe and sound then?
Yes.
And got free government money?
Yes, but not if I didn't do it for long. I think within 2 weeks I was working.
Oh wow, it's fast.
Yeah, within 2 weeks I was working, and within a year I bought a house.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
What about Jose? How did he adjust?
Not very well. He loved it at first, but he couldn't speak English. So that took a while. The roles reversed completely. I suddenly turned into the breadwinner, and Jose was very proud, and he was Latin American, and it kind of stripped him of everything. The fact that he couldn't provide for me and take care of me, and that he was at home looking after, you know, my daughter whilst I was out at work, paying all the bills and the food. And, you know, I didn't mind at all. It was that's just how the situation was, and but he really struggled with that, and he was there for about 3 years, I think, and then he wanted to work. We wanted to have kids, wanted to get married, do all those things. So we tried to apply for his papers. It put a strain. After 3 years, it was really putting a strain on our relationship. And I knew that if he could just work, he would be happy again.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get the papers from England. We didn't know that at the time. You have to apply for the papers from the country that you're living in. So we went back to get his papers, and they arrested him at Heathrow Airport.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it continue your relationship, or did that end it?
We still speak.
Mm-hmm.
But he got a black stamp put on his passport saying that he wasn't allowed to enter the UK for 5 years. And I wasn't able to go back to Venezuela for, I think it was 6 years. We appealed it. We spent hundreds of pounds appealing it, and lost all the appeals. Sad, isn't it?
It is sad, yeah. I mean, what a absolutely breathtaking story, and it's come to that at the end.
I know.
So how is your life now?
Oh, wow. I'm so blessed. I have a really blessed life. Thank you to moments like these, the lessons that I've learnt, the strength that I've drawn from those experiences has made me kind of feel that there's nothing in the world that I can't overcome. The book was a game changer for me in my life, and my whole life turned topsy-tipsy. It's available on Amazon. Sentenced to Hell, Natalie Welsh.
Click down in the description box below this video. How did you get this published then?
Oh wow! I'd been writing bits in prison, because straight away I was like, I've got to write a book about this, or I've got to write. It started off as diaries, and then again I was so focused. I went into Waterstones, and I picked up the first autobiography that I could find, which happened to be Cliff Richard's. I just picked the first one up, and I went straight to the back page, and there was some details on there of like an agent and stuff, and I just got an A4 piece of paper and just hand wrote. I didn't even send any of I didn't want to bombard, I just hand wrote on an A4 piece of paper a very brief description, but with the major points in it, and that I wanted to turn it into a book, and left my phone number on there. And I got a phone call about a week later.
It's such a compelling story.
Yeah, I got a phone call about a week later. Someone came down to see me, and then I went to London, and just kind of progressed and rolled on from there.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So some people watching this video might want to reach out to you.
Yeah.
Are you available to people on social media or anything?
Yeah, I'm available on Facebook. You can find me under my name, Natalie Welsh. If you PM me with any questions or any queries, then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I have internet problems because of where I live. I move around quite a lot in the mountains and stuff, so my signal dips in and out. So if I don't respond to you for a while, then please be patient. I will respond to everybody. And
I'll put Natalie's link to her Facebook in the description box below this video. And to people out there watching this, maybe young people who are tempted into the lifestyle, the criminal organizations, what they do is they know they're going to get so many drugs out the country, and they know they're going to keep the police happy by allowing a fraction of the smugglers to get busted, so the police captain can get a promotion, and they can make headlines, and they can get tons of money off the Westerners through legal fees and all the other things that, you know, the money. Basically, if you get arrested out there, you're like a piggy bank for the local justice system. And the traffickers use people as fall guys, so they can get the bulk of the drugs through these operations. So for young people who are tempted to smuggle drugs, what would you say to them?
Don't do it. You know, I have drawn some really strong lessons from it, but I suffer, mentally. I suffer. I have post-traumatic stress. I have borderline personality disorder. It's not worth it at all. Nothing good is ever going to come from it, and if it does, it's going to be very short-lived. So anyone that's thinking about doing it, don't do it.
So please put your questions and comments for Natalie in the comments below this video. Huge thank you to all the subscribers. If you've not subscribed yet, subscription logos in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Huge thank you to all people who've donated on PayPal, Patreon, Just Giving, Subscribe Star. Those links are in the description box to enable us to keep producing these podcasts in a studio at this professional level quality. And if you've got any other guests out there you'd like to see on that have got hard-hitting, harrowing stories like this, please let us know. And you've told your story absolutely brilliant, Natalie, so give me a hug.
Oh, thank you so much,
welcome.
Shaun.
Yeah, thanks.
You've been fantastic.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah,
Thank
you've
you.
been so good.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you very much. Bye, guys.